That sense of inadequacy and insecurity about the way that I looked had really festered. I mean, that was the conclusion that I had drawn about myself, is that I would look in the mirror. What I saw reflected back just felt like, at times, sort of disgusting to me, honestly. I knew the answer was to sort of go to God, but I was also raging with hormones, surrounded by, guys. And what I realized is that if a guy found me attractive, it kind of silenced that voice for a bit. And so that became a bit of a pattern. I really pursued relationships with guys. I'd kind of lost my virginity in actually a really unromantic, pretty grim way, to be honest. I actually lost my virginity to this guy, and I felt like I gave him all of me. I gave him my heart. And I look back now, and I can see how blindingly obvious it was that he was using me. That internal voice that would speak to me about my lack of worth was so loud. Any little scrap of affection or attention he gave me was enough to sort of keep it quiet. And I guess crossing that line then led to really just a path of promiscuity. It was like that, permission had been granted and the door was open, and I just didn't care anymore. It's like my dignity had gone. I just didn't care. And I had experienced the love of God. Like I knew God was real, but I had deliberately closed the door. And where I'd found myself was this empty state. And I can remember praying this prayer, like kneeling down on my grotty university carpet and just praying this prayer, like, God, can I just come back? I have messed it up royally. Can I come back to you? And I remember tears and, snot just streaming down my face. And in that moment, I felt God's love again. I knew God loved me, but I still had so much shame. I would go to church and I would just feel this heavy weight of shame. And I think the lie that I now recognize as a lie was, okay, God loves me, but he can't use me. It wasn't just like one mistake. It was like a series of choices, intentional decisions that I had made. That because of that, I wasn't going to be useful to God anymore. It took a long time for God to slowly dismantle the shame in my life. Like I knew God's love, but the shame took a long time to really get rid of. And I think the enemy had a field day for a long time. That voice that I now recognize as the enemy's voice coming in, constantly wanting to disqualify me, constantly wanting to discredit all the good stuff that God was doing in my life. And often I think I'd love to go back and speak to like 19-year-old Rachel, 20-year-old Rachel, and just remind her how valuable she is, her worth. I meet people that are younger than me, that are perhaps coming out of that phase of life, and I can see that they're carrying the shame of sort of choices that they've made, maybe around sex, relationships, that maybe now they feel that sense of regret and they feel that they're discounted. And so for me, the greatest privilege is to be able to remind them that isn't God's voice over their life. In Micah, the book of Micah, and it says, "Do not gloat over me, my enemy. Though I have fallen, I will rise." When that voice comes in saying, "Who do you think you are?" Like, let's just remind you of all that stuff that you did. Who do you think you are to believe that you can go back into church, or that you could have the life that God promises you? Who do you think you are? I recall those verses in Micah. "Do not gloat over me, my enemy. Though I have fallen, I will rise."